Welcome to Beyond the AGM, a product of AGORACOM, in which we speak to companies in a little more detail about what they're going to be presenting at their AGMs. This year's company, St. George Eco Mining, trades on the CSE under the stock symbol SX. This segment significantly is going to be about the company's Borealis initiative. And here to talk about that is Frank Dumas, Chief Operating Officer of St. George. Frank, welcome back, my man.
Hey, well, good to be here again.
Yeah, hey, it's like we just did a couple minutes ago on sure.
I had the time to go and jog 5 minutes around the house, and then that's it.
Let's talk about Borealis, okay?
Yeah.
Borealis, look, I'm going to give the technical description, and then I'm going to talk to you about first, give everyone at home the layman explanation, and then what we're doing about it. So, Borealis, a distributed, decentralized, digital derivative marketplace. Oh my goodness, the 5 Ds, maybe 4, 5, 6 Ds there. It's currently 100% owned by St. George. It's located in Iceland. Layman's term, first of all, what is Borealis for everyone at home who's maybe hearing this for the first time or needs a refresher?
So it's going to be a peer-to-peer derivative marketplace. So people will be able to build their own derivative on it using the baseline token that we're creating. The first one's going to come out probably in September. That would be a pass-through token that will allow you to create derivative or actually trade in derivative. If you're an institution, if you're retail, you'll be able to stake EOS and have a way to trade EOS live through atomic swap, EOS being a cryptocurrency with Ethereum. So
there's a lot to absorb there. I'm going to try and take us even one step further back. So in layman's terms, what's an example of a derivative either an institution would put on Borealis, or what's an example of a derivative that I would put on Borealis?
Well, for example, you might want to have a basket of derivative where you will have, the best or the layman example would be oil and gas. So somebody with a shipment of oil and gas will want to create, for example, or tokenize that shipment and develop a product like a receipt for that product while it's in transport, and match it with either a default swap or match it with an insurance receipt. And obviously, that kind of product will be created by licensed brokerage and banks on the platform. But it's something you can trade against or that you could use to hedge yourself in a complex strategy. And it also allows you to monetize assets while they are in transition, while they're in transitioning stage, for example, where they're not delivered yet, but they exist, they can be audited. The blockchain will allow...
Is that mostly commodities, Frank? Are you mostly going to be aiming towards commodities, oil and gas, corn, soybeans?
Well, the fact that we'll do a lot of cryptocurrency, a lot of crypto tokens of securities, like tokenized securities. We'll also do a lot of swap insurance and currencies. I don't want to say it's commodities. Like commodities come into place. I see it as a way to do commodities that trade in massive amounts. That are massive in the world right now, but don't trade on a future exchange, for example. Things that trades on the off the books or OTC. If you look at the paperback assets, that crisis that triggered the 2008 crisis, that also triggered the imprisonment of a lot of brokers and bankers in Iceland after 2008. This is the best example. We'll be able to do it again, but this time having something that's in real time, transparent, and that these assets exist or not. They'll be audited not by us, by the community, and it will be something that the government also and the regulators will be able to audit in real time without having to ask anyone to do it.
All right. How do you commercialize? What does this represent for St. George in terms of and shareholders in terms of an asset that's going to
it's a transport fee for us. It's always a transport fee. So to get into these different basket of derivative or derivative baskets, you'll have to use one of our baseline token, and you'll have to run it on our network. So in order to run it on our network, we'll be charging frictional fees. So for us, the more there is in terms of transaction, the more money we'll make, and we'll probably make some interest also on the micro lending, on the margin, that type of things. And that gets into more the banking license, and the reason why we're also trying to get like a specialized bank license in Iceland and in Malta.
Devil's advocate, why would I use Borealis? Are there other bigger, more established alternatives out there?
There is people doing, I would say, things that are adjacent. I don't know of anyone doing what we are planning to do midterm. Short term, we're going to release some products. Other people are doing staking tokens. Other people are doing tokens where you can park your money, stabilize the price, have an edge versus the price declining when you hold tokens, and still earn something out of it. So without spending your token, without investing it, by having something that is secure, you'll be able to earn a little bit of income strictly by staking these tokens into one of our baseline token. So without getting too technical there is a market for that. We've seen it with the distributed finance or the DeFi craze right now with Ethereum. Problem with that, Ethereum fees or gas fee, so the fee that you pay to do any transaction, are getting out of hands. Through our first token, you'll be able to use EOS tokens to actually stake and directly Ether tokens or Ethereum tokens without paying Ether gas fee. So that's the beauty of using derivative. And these derivatives will be backed by the actual assets. So they're not made out, we're not pulling in out of our behinds. They're easy to audit. You'll be able to see from where these other assets are coming and how they are, I don't know if it's in English terms, but derivatives, where they become, what's the process to bring them into that derivative.
You talk about DeFi, which is distributed finance, DeFi, which is super hot right now, right? You see it everywhere. You're seeing articles. And I could accuse you of being a bandwagoner if you hadn't already talked about DeFi a couple of years ago with Borealis.
Well, if we were not already in it for the last 3 or 4 years when nobody cared and everybody thought that was great, I was not as interesting as ICOs and all these other shiny projects that were out there, we would be a bandwagoner because we would not be missing on that opportunity. But the beauty is we've been in it for a while, and we have a grand, we have a grand strategy going into it. It's going to take the time it takes, but at the same time, we're building the baseline of our strategy right now. We're putting these segments into the market. We want to see what the community is going to find. The community is going to find other usage for it. Because they'll be able to use it for their own project.
Sure.
So that's going to bring us volume. That's going to bring us revenue. It might be small volume, small revenue at the beginning, but it's something that is interesting for us because it will allow us to also figure out how we can tweak our strategy as we go. Nobody knows where blockchain and distributed finance will be in 1 year, and imagine 5 years from now. So we have a general idea of where we're going, but we're going to tweak it as we go, and that makes us, in a way better position.
Kind of like that famous. It's kind of like that famous scene in the Facebook movie where the guy tells Mark Zuckerberg, "Don't try and commercialize just yet because you don't know what Facebook is yet." That's the same. I guess that's kind of what you're saying here. You don't know what Borealis can. You have an idea, but you don't want to.
Now we know some of the segments, and we know some of where the revenue is going to come, but we're starting to have doubts about which one's going to be the most profitable, and some.
You got to let the market tell you.
Yeah, and we're getting requests from the market. Like it's if you go to EOS, for example, we're getting a lot of the community interested recently. mostly because they figured out that we're deploying a few things with EOS. We've deployed, and if you look, and I'm saying we, because of my involvement in ZU, being the president of ZU, ZU is deploying tools right now to do peer-to-peer gambling on EOS, using EOS as the core blockchain or the public blockchain to connect to other blockchain. It's kind of the gateway we're using right now, and there's a lot of people in the US community that likes it a lot. And EOS is super cheap to use in terms of gas fee. Actually, there's no gas fee, but in terms of fees, usage fees, and it's something that we can create incentive for people to come to. And it's also a way to go to communicate from one blockchain to another, or to trade one blockchain to another, either through atomic swap or through the usage of derivative tokens, which we'll put a bunch of them out in the next 6 months, and we'll cover probably 8 to 15 other mainstream blockchain and mainstream cryptocurrencies.
Let's go through 3 questions posted by the shareholders via the Q&A on the St. George's Verified forum on AGORACOM. And thanks for using it, Felix, who is the one who's posted 3 questions. First question, you've already mentioned ZU, and if I'm not mistaken, Borealis uses ZU's blockchain technology. So the question Felix has is, why was this not spun off with ZU?
For many reasons. Like ZU is developing technology and certain killer application, or what we want to be killer application that we want the general public to use. And to there's really 2 segments in ZU. It's not a presentation about ZU, but I'm quickly go at it. One is targeting mass retail people, and the other one is targeting people that will deploy institutions or enterprise solution. Now, Borealis is really something that requires layers of license from different countries. And it's something that is a lot of stop and goes until now, where we had something developed and then wait 6 months to get an answer from one of the regulators that has to say yes or no. So before we move to the next step, and then in some aspect on Borealis, without getting too much into confidential details, we've been sent back to the drawing board to adjust certain portion because regulators were not comfortable with certain aspect of it. And so we don't want to slow down ZU by having ZU waiting, and we don't want ZU also to be a coding farms for these large projects. So somebody else going to run with it. That doesn't mean that it's going to be in St. George in 10 years from now. If that becomes bigger than St. George, I can guarantee you Will has this business sense that he's going to find either somebody to be the sponsor of this thing, or it's going to be a standalone operation, and we'll bring talent to that operation to run it on its own power. So yeah, it's let's say it's in development. As long as it's in development, we'll collaborate. 100% development is being done by ZU. Although Will, Christine, still a few of the people in Iceland have their pulse with the government, or their pulse or the finger on the pulse of the government, and it was convenient to keep it into St. George for probably the foreseeable future.
Right, because it is going to be regulated by the Icelandic and Maltese government, so there's that connection as well. Mm-hmm. I'm going to hop to the third question because it's that. Well, I'll just say, how does this tie into commodity trading? But I think you already answered that when I asked you earlier.
Yeah. Well, there was some confusion on this initially because if you go back to the history of St. George and ZU and the blockchain and Borealis, St. George got into blockchain because we started to develop an application that would have run on Ethereum that would have tracked blood mineral. And that was because of our involvement in 2012, 13, 14 in Africa, in the cobalt and copper market. So this is that's something we totally exit, but the application was there, it was started, and people found it when we were looking at probably tracking the lithium production and some other metal production versus carbon credit. and to be able to trade in carbon credit. Now, that's one thing that most probably you'll be able to see derivative carbon credits on the Borealis marketplace. Reason for that, there's not one carbon credit out there. So there's arbitrage opportunities between the different type of carbon credit. And there's also a normalization, and there's an auditing of carbon credits that is in dire needs right now. And Borealis will have the tools for people that are interested, the firms that are trading in carbons and carbon credits and other type of green credits, to come in and create their own baskets that can trade or come up with an index, for example. Would be the best example of something that can be built up. And other people will be able to use their own index and maybe come up and adjust that into an augmented oil and gas or an augmented energy derivative basket. So there's always place for commodities because it's a tradable asset. Any type of tradable asset becomes interesting for the Borealis exchange.
Last question from Felix. Why are you not calling it an exchange?
Actually, I just called it an exchange, and it's not.
Yeah.
An exchange. Because an exchange by default, like I do have, and it's it's not just a personal, it's not just
Preference.
a personal issue or preference. It's also the fact that most exchange are they're set up in a way that they're centralized, and we want to be decentralized as much as we can, so that data is protected, so that it's not attacked. When you go fully digital, you expose yourself. So security-wise, being a marketplace is a lot better. Also, by being distributed and decentralized, we allowed certain assets to be in certain jurisdiction and to be under certain regulators that will make things a lot easier, and that are not necessarily regulated in other jurisdictions. But still, we bring everything to trading by confronting these things inside a final basket or derivative basket.
Frank, thanks for joining us on this segment about the Borealis part of St. George. Very helpful information. Look, a lot of it flies over the heads of people too. So there'll be
what's important to know. It's a work in progress. There is some of the development that will be out there this year, in this quarter, and probably the next. And you're going to start to see some volume, some revenue, and probably some expense also. But we'll see fairly quickly. We should be breaking even and making a profit with that operation. And that's there's exciting time. We're not even at 1% of everything we can do with that operation.
Well, okay, that alone was worth this whole segment, knowing that cash flow and even potentially profitability is going to be coming in the next couple of quarters. So thanks for bringing us up to date on that. And for everyone at home, thanks for watching or listening. And to Felix, thanks for posting your questions through the shareholder Q&A on St. George's verified form. That completes this segment on Borealis. If you haven't done so already, make sure you watch the other segments. We got, what's the status of the company's Canadian resource assets? What's the status of the company's of processing technology for lithium, and what's the status of the company's Iceland operations, its Iceland assets? So lots going on. Glad you joined us. Go watch the next one. See you later.